for disruptions to the passage through the Strait of Hormuz is the illegal U.S.-Israeli military operations against Iran. Ceasefire as well as peace and stability in the Gulf region are the fundamental prerequisites to keep the international shipping route safe and unimpeded. Parties need to work together to promote de-escalation and prevent regional turmoil from having a greater impact on global economy and energy security.
Israel is a tiny terrorist state. They start bombing everywhere. These idiots thought the Americans will conquer the world for them. The entire Israel government must be killed. No mercy whatsoever. The world must execute them like the Nazis at Nuremberg. Not one should remain. Once the dog is dead, the rabies is over.
Iran is a very bad regime. No discussion about that. I disagree with them on a lot of topics. But I don't believe that we will fix the situation just by bombings or by military operations. Look at what happened with this type of operation in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya. We never delivered. Never. Even after 20 years. So you have to respect the sovereignty of people. If people want to change a regime, they want to react, step up, they can do so.
Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred. But we also won regime change. We have a regime change like nobody thought was possible. You know, I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. There, just about everything there is to obliterate, including leadership. Their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone. We're flying wherever we want, Pete. We have nobody even shooting at us.
Target hit! Target destroyed!
Senator, what is your reaction to this news? Have you been able to get any other information on the status of the search or the status of this other A-10 Warthog that apparently has been shot down as well, at least according to the Iranians?
Yeah, Jake, I pretty much know what you are reporting. It is good news that one of the pilots on the F-15 has been recovered, thank God. And look, the message that I want to deliver here, because the Iranians monitor U.S. media pretty darn carefully, is if this second pilot is rescued, treat him or her in accord with international humanitarian law about prisoners. Many are making the case that the U.S. actions to strike, downed survivors of attacks in the Caribbean or Pacific, or the striking of civilian infrastructure in Iran, many are making the case that that is a violation of international law. And if Iran shows that it will follow international humanitarian law in the treatment of this pilot, should they seize him, that would be a very strong statement that we ought to always follow rules.
Colonel Gagne, what does this mean for U.S. jet strikes and other aerial missions moving forward?
That the skies are not as safe as they perhaps presumed.
We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country.
Those are the words of a potential war criminal, right there. And that is not the advice and counsel and direction that any Secretary of Defense should be providing our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. It puts them actually in greater danger. The Secretary of Defense is a disgraced major that was kicked out of the DC National Guard. He has no qualifications whatsoever to be the Secretary of Defense other than his extreme loyalty to the president. Again, those are the words of a potential war criminal.
One of your colleagues said that you got drunk at an event at a bar and chanted, "Kill all Muslims." Another colleague, not anonymous, we have this, said that you took co-workers to a strip club. You were drunk, you tried to dance with strippers, you had to be held off the stage, and one of your employees in that event filed a sexual harassment charge as a result of it. Now, I know you denied these things, but isn't that the kind of behavior that, if true, would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense?
Senator, anonymous false charges.
They're not anonymous. And I'll just conclude and say this to the chairman. You claim that this was all anonymous. We have seen records with names attached to all of these, including the name of your own mother.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here.
Well, let's talk about the significance, too, first of all, of General George and him being asked to immediately retire. I know this is not the first move that Pete Hegseth has made. There's been a lot of turnover, a lot of different Army generals that have been asked to step aside. But this one in particular, as we are in the middle of this conflict, possibly with 2 or 3 weeks left, does that signal to you anything in particular? What's your reaction to it?
Well, you know, that and amongst, you know, the Secretary of War interfering with promotions, 2 other generals just got relieved. It tells me there's a lot of disheartened discourse going on behind the scenes, and the Secretary of War is not liking the advice he's getting. So he got rid of the Army chief, and you know, there's now unconfirmed reports that maybe the Secretary of the Army might be next.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard. It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump. Because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is, you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated, choose your word.
We wiped out the nuclear capability of Iran, obliterated it. It was obliterated like nobody's ever seen before.
I would say it's set back permanently.
That place is under rock. That place is demolished. They're never going to have nuclear. Their radar is 100% annihilated.
Choose your word.
Iran offered to give away all of its enriched uranium during the peace talks. And hours later, the U.S. started dropping bombs. And The Guardian broke yesterday that there were British officials, the British National Security Advisor was present in Geneva during that last round of talks. The British were surprised by the Iranian offer. They thought it was credible. They thought the talks should continue. And the British were shocked when the Trump administration started bombing Iran hours later.
But I am allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country. I'm even allowed to impose a foreign country destroying embargo. I can embargo. I can do anything I want, but I can't charge $1. Because that's not what it says. And that's not the way it even reads. I can do anything I want to do to them, but I can't charge any money. So I'm allowed to destroy the country, but I can't charge them a little fee.
Ya, pemirsa, rudal-rudal Iran kembali menghujani kota Tel Aviv hingga
Iran continues to fire missiles towards Israel. A ballistic missile hit Petah Tikva in central Israel on Thursday evening, bypassing air defense systems. It landed between a residential neighborhood and the city's industrial zone, causing a large crater. The shockwave damaged nearby buildings.
A little bit of breaking news coming out of the Middle East, hearing in the last few moments from the Reuters news agency that Iran has rejected a US proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. That's according to an unnamed source speaking to the Fars news agency. Iran rejecting a US proposal apparently for a 48-hour ceasefire.
Dean Ryan here with a World War III update. Well, as you know, or may not know, I've been on a spring break hiatus as we here at Real Deal Media are preparing to make a full comeback of World at War, our franchise and #1 late night show. Just days away, waiting for manufacturing pieces to get shipped. And as you know, the worldwide calamity is making shipping altogether a whole nother level of challenge. All that aside, so much is happening right now. The escalation of this one-off, one and done war, but don't call it a war, call it a conflict. Don't call it a conflict because it's a war. Everyone's talking into the just every orifice of their mouth, and particularly the Trump administration. Right now, we can share with you, report with you as the time zones are drastically different. We're talking 17, 18-hour time difference between Americans and what's happening in the Middle East. We have jet fighters of the U.S. going down. They're no match for these Iranian ballistic missiles. We have Tel Aviv now, and all of central Israel, for that fact, now completely being demolished and wrecked by Iran. And a lot of that information is not getting out in the mainstream. A lot of people are now reporting, and what we're kind of always felt, that the mainstream, the lamestream, you're in soaked media, as we call it, but a lot of the headquarters of the mainstream media operations are based, go figure, in Israel. Now they're being rocked as well. On top of that, as we've been sharing some of these World War III updates, it's now said to be over 50,000 or just around 50,000 troops have been sent to the region, to the Gulf, to Iran. We now have an unlisted amount of deaths from the U.S. side. We don't even know how many soldiers. Last time we heard any verification or verified numbers of that, it was around 13. Now, just the other day, we heard 137, but we have figures and people saying well over that. In fact, they're saying Susie Wiles is trying to get Donald Trump to come clean to the American people and tell the real amount of death in the region. On top of that, sadly, we're now learning that the U.S. is doing an air campaign over Tehran, the capital city of Iran, and they are now beginning to carpet bomb civilians, where it's now said to be over 2,000 innocent Iranian people are now dead, have perished. And a lot of the reasoning for that is now saying the commanders of a lot of these fleets, a lot of the soldiers on the ground, a lot of the upper echelon of military are telling our soldiers that the more destruction that is put onto the Iranian people, and on top of feeling free to shoot indiscriminately, they're encouraging. But the more of that occurs, the sooner Jesus Christ is going to come back and the rapture will begin. This is the kind of sick ideology that has been capturing our entire military for a long time, at behest of the Christian Zionists, also at the behest of the sleepy hidden hand of this, the Mormons, who are the biggest Zionist sycophants. So this is happening now. In addition to that, over there in southern Lebanon, you have over 1 million displaced and being told to never come back. We have thousands of them getting killed. In fact, we have so many displaced and so many innocent people and civilians being perished that it far outweighs what happened in October 7th, 2023 in Israel. And it's now getting to the point where it's now going to surpass 9/11 as well. And the world community has spoken, and they are very sickened to their stomachs. And I'm here to tell you, so are the Americans who are awakened to this, who opposed it from the start, who agreed with Donald Trump. during the election and all the years prior that waging a war in the Middle East and getting bogged down into that is not only just failed diplomacy, but a stupid idea, and it's a slow death. And that's what we're experiencing here in the United States. Gas prices going up, and as well as politically. People are beginning to panic. Even one of them, Lindsey, the Ladybug Graham, he's now having to rush back to South Carolina where they're trying to primary him. He's very nervous. This is getting worse before it's even getting better. It's not even bottomed out yet because Trump will not fully pull out because in his mind, he has to declare some kind of victory, have some kind of commensurate, souvenir, when in fact, the blood, the treasure of the United States and our young men and women are now being spread once again, spilt all over the Middle East. You talk about travesty, you talk about one of the darkest periods in American history. We're there. This will define the 21st century just like 9/11 did. And the scenes and the sounds of World War III speak for themselves. So we'll keep you up to date on this. Thank you to everybody with your patience as we are transforming everything here at Real Deal Media. It's not easy, but I will be back soon, very soon. And when I do, we're going to rule the late night and spread the truth and freedom until we win these pandemic wars. So anyways, stand by there. Thank you to everyone. You can follow us. Please feel free to share. Make sure that you're still following all the channels as we get unsubbed and shadow banned all the time. So for all of us here at Real Deal Media and this World War III update, I'm Dean Ryan saying thank you very much and Godspeed, and always remember to stay tuned and stay awake.
I have made it clear to the Israeli leadership that I do not support their expansionist ideas. The indigenous people of that land have rights that cannot be ignored. We must find a fair solution, not one dictated by any single group.